So, did you know that you could be guilty of a crime even if you didn't mean to commit it? So, today I'm going to explain you how Actus Reus and mens rea they work together in criminal law and why you should care about this crucial relationship. Hello everyone, welcome back to Law Insight. My name is Actus Reus, and today we are looking into one of the most fundamental concepts in criminal law, which is the connection between Actus Reus and mens rea. Now, whether you are studying law, preparing for an exam, or just curious about how the law works, understanding these two elements is key in knowing when someone can actually be held responsible for a crime. You might think that committing a crime is as simple as doing something illegal. But here's the thing, it's not enough just to commit the act. The law requires both the actus reus, which is the physical act, and mens rea, the guilty mind, to be present. Without both, someone may not be found guilty of a crime. But what does that actually mean? And how do these two elements work together? Let's break it down. Let's start with the basic. Now, actus reus refer to the physical act or unlawful omission that makes up a criminal offense. For example, if someone physically takes another person's wallet, that act is the actus reus of theft. On the other hand, mens rea is the mental state or the intention behind the act. So, if someone takes the wallet by mistake, thinking it's their own, then they might not have the necessary mens rea to be found guilty of theft. To make this clear, imagine you walk out of a coffee shop with someone else's phone, thinking it's yours. Now, you have committed the physical act of taking the phone, but since you didn't mean to steal it, you didn't have the mens rea. And that's the crucial distinction. So let's explore this further with a real case example. Crown and Cunningham, 1957. In this case, the court ruled that even though Cunningham didn't mean to cause the injury, but his failure to consider the potential consequence of his action made him liable. This case illustrates that in some situations, you don't need to have direct intent to cause harm for criminal liability to apply. If your actions are reckless enough, that recklessness can count as mens rea. And this idea of recklessness being enough to meet the requirement of mens rea is essential for establishing criminal responsibility. Now, what if the actus reus and mens rea they don't occur at the same time? That's where the coincidence principle comes into play. One of the best examples of this is the case of Fagan and Metropolitan Police Commissioner 1969. In this case, Fagan accidentally drove his car onto a police officer's foot. At first, there was no mens rea because it was a mistake. He didn't mean to do it. But when Fagan realized what he had done and refused to move his car, his intention changed. The court ruled that even though the actus reus happened first and mens rea that developed later was enough to make him criminally liable. Now, this case is important because it shows that actus reus and mens rea don't always need to happen at the exact same moment as long as the guilty mind arises while the wrongful act is still being committed, which would ultimately lead to a criminal liability. However, not all crime requires the same type of mens rea. For this reason, we need to consider the difference between specific intent and general intent crimes. Specific intent crimes, like theft, require that the defendant intend both the act and the result. So in theft case, you must not take something but also intend to permanently deprive the owner of it. General intent crime, on the other hand, only require that the person intended to perform the act without needing the intent to specific result. For example, in case of battery, the intention to hit someone is enough, even if you don't intend to cause serious injury. A great case to understand this distinction is Crown and Mohan 1975. In this case, the court focused on Mohan's specific intent to cause harm, emphasizing that for certain crimes, it's not enough to prove the act itself. You also need to prove that the person had a specific intention to achieve a particular result. Now, you might be wondering, what about cases where someone doesn't mean to do anything wrong, but they are still held responsible? Now, that's where the negligence comes into play. A perfect example of this is Crown and Adamoko 1994, which involved a doctor who failed to notice that a patient's oxygen tube had become disconnected during surgery. This mistake led to the patient's death, and even though the doctor didn't intend any harm, the court ruled that his gross negligence was enough to establish criminal liability. Now, this case shows that in certain circumstances, even without intent or recklessness, someone can be held criminally responsible if their negligence is so severe that it goes beyond what a reasonable person would do. So, why does this all matter? The relationship between actus reus and mens rea is at the core of criminal law. Whether someone is being charged with intentional crime like theft, recklessness like in the Cunningham case, or gross negligence as in Adamoko, both elements must come together to establish criminal liability. Without both the physical act and the guilty mind, you can't have a complete crime. And as you can see from these cases, it's not always black and white. The timing of actus reus and mens rea, the level of intent, and even whether negligence can count as guilty mind, all of these factors come into play when determining guilt. So, as we wrap up today's discussion, I want to ask you, have you ever done something accidentally that it ended up causing bigger problems than you expected? Let me know in the comments below, and we can talk about how these legal principles might apply to your situation. Thank you for watching this video on actus reus and mens rea. I hope the breakdown helped clarify these essential concepts in criminal law. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment on what legal topics you would like me to cover next.